I sing and produce in the band Chalk.
I'm Ben. I play guitar in Chalk.
Well, album just came out 2 weeks ago, Ben. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling really good, Ross. We're feeling a little bit tired, a bit under the weather. We've just toured the States for a couple of weeks now. It was really nice. I think we got on a plane from Dublin the day after the album came out, so it was kind of good because it didn't let us stew in it or think about it too much. Yeah. But I think now maybe after some reviews have come out and playing the shows, I think it's all catching up with us now. So feeling spent in a good way, I think. So it's kind of actually been like a nice cathartic experience even in that way. But yeah, feeling good.
Yeah. You too? You're feeling good?
Yeah. Had some chicken noodle soup, feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think because the record has taken, it's pretty new, so it's not like it's had a lot of time to simmer or settle down into itself. But what's felt like the thing that you've been scratching at with the record now that you can also you have a little bit of retrospect, but like what does it feel like that the band has been scratching at with the record for you guys?
It's an interesting question. It's been very interesting even to play a lot of the songs live on the record kind of the first time, because even that's kind of a different way to figure out a song and stuff like that. We have like an 8-minute song on the record called Belfast, which is near the end of it, and we've started playing that now. I think we've only really played it 4 or 5 times, but I'm even kind of still figuring the song out in that way myself. We kind of talk about it because we haven't toured the record like a load yet. Yeah. It's kind of like learning a dance routine or something like that, getting into it, and it even feels like we're kind of starting to get the moves and stuff like that. But especially when we made the song, we'd never played it live or anything like that. We made it for the record, so we have it towards the end of our set as well, so it kind of is offering this kind of like big dance moment, but I'm still kind of even figuring out like how I kind of feel. I mean, it does feel like big and euphoric and stuff like that, but I'm still even kind of figuring out like what I do on stage and how I feel in the audience reaction and stuff like that. And I think as well, maybe because the record's, it's only been out a couple of weeks now, we have met a lot of really nice people who have said like, oh my God, I've listened to it like 5 times or like 10 times now, but I even know that's such like a short amount of time maybe for people to kind of wrap their hands around something, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are my general thoughts.
Yeah. I guess I almost think about it as like 3 different parts. When you're writing or working on a song, and then when you're actually recording it, and then maybe like the after part when you perform it live, but also hear feedback from other people. Has the meaning for the song, or just like the feeling that a song gives you, has it changed between that process, or is there have the songs in the album kind of stayed consistent for you?
Yeah, well, when we started doing press for the album a couple of months ago, we certainly started to look into ourselves a bit more, what we were trying to say, because we didn't really know what we were going to say or how we were going to get there. And I think us sort of talking to different outlets and trying to explain what the songs are was kind of intimidating, but it's actually been quite helpful for us. Usually we just sort of like to leave it to interpretation and stuff rather than give it a whole, but it was quite an important world that we explored, and identity of us sort of growing up where we grew up, and dealing with that and learning also along the way that there's other people who feel that way kind of across the world, some sort of identity let's say crisis or something, but just sort of a split between maybe having some sort of mix of religion or heritage in your family and not really knowing where you belong in the world and stuff. So it's been quite helpful looking in on that. Yeah.
I think I did notice that a lot of the times you guys do mention that you prefer people to make their own interpretation. Why is that important for you guys, or why do you leave it like that?
I think it's beautiful for someone to kind of have their own kind of interpretation. Like, we've got people asking us about, like, or maybe in the past about a song or something, and it's been a whole thing that they think that it's about, and
Yeah.
it's so not it, which I love, and that kind of is like gives some sort of magic to it. And I know I've sort of maybe invented meanings of songs, and maybe haven't of songs that I love, but I haven't really gone searching for like the specific meaning behind lyrics or the words. But it's my personal thing that I've made connection with that song. So I think it's cool to still sort of say it, like you can tell the story if the story's there, but I think it's okay to not really necessarily know exactly what you're trying to say with the song initially.
Yeah.
You know, you maybe have some time after until you kind of figure out what it is for you as the songwriter, I suppose.
Yeah. I do think the fact that you also mentioned identity as being part of the album as a core meaning to it does really inform a lot of how I interpret it, because I know I guess most people are kind of struggling with their identities, but that's such a shifting thing in life where, you know, identities change. What does your relationship now look like after the record, like after you guys have already done that work or gone through? Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe I might need another couple of tours to figure out what my identity is. No, I don't know, maybe if it's always a searching process or something like that. I think definitely it's not like that. I don't know, maybe for me the record wasn't like a search of answers of sort of just maybe a reflection and kind of putting down on record something like we've been feeling maybe our whole lives, and because it was like us making it as well, we didn't really have the answers. It was kind of, and I don't know if it's us even searching for answers or anything like that. I think maybe we just kind of wanted to put that down because we thought maybe other people might feel this way, so maybe it's our kind of just our statement of intent in that way, and maybe I guess that's just our artistic just like trying to put something down, and then hopefully maybe some other people can connect with that in some way. So yeah, I still don't have all the answers. So art doesn't fix everything, but it does offer some more questions that can be helpful.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I was thinking about too, about how I think sometimes in the record it's I'm not necessarily looking for answers or finding an answer, but at least clarifying the question or figuring out what question to ask to get there. I'm curious because I know just right at the end when you said you might not always know, or you don't necessarily know, when you're a band of 3 people and one person might feel more certain about something or might feel a bit more, like I feel like the process of figuring that out, or even if you don't really figure it out, you end up at different points in time, closer, further away. How do you navigate that when you're each at different places, potentially?
Yeah, well, maybe if someone usually feels strongly about something, we sort of open up the floor to, like, you know, trust each other and go with, like, make it a healthy kind of talk about, like, how things, you know, if there's a disagreement or anything. But we've just been navigating that and learned to trust each other and go with our guts and take risks as well, because you to know there was never like 100% of this is all going to be great, this is all going to be okay. During the making of the album, there was stuff there that was kind of like unsure. We were kind of unsure about, which is I think a good thing. Kind of going out of there's that famous David Bowie interview where he's like, you know, you should be uncomfortable when you're making your art and stuff. So that was sort of the main thing going in for this album. But I mean, it wasn't really a lot of bashing of heads or anything. It all felt quite, you know.
Democrat is a good word, and it's also we can kind of come at stuff together, but it's also like there is like, you know, like a purity in a singular voice or something like that. You're kind of trying to capture something very singular and personal, and then to connect with a lot of different people on a very singular level. So even though it's we can deal with it together, we are trying to capture like a very intimate feeling or thought or something like that. So maybe if everyone isn't feeling that at the exact same time, maybe we've all felt that at some point, but we are trying to capture something like that, and I think that's hopefully what translates the best in music.
Translating that as well into a wider audience
people who are listening to, we've never been to Belfast, obviously. And so crystalpunk is kind of, even though I'm not saying that's my introduction to, I guess, the world
of the music of Belfast.
I know, but I think it feels like it gives me more insight into that. There was a line that you had mentioned, and I think it was in another interview, where you had said, or I don't know, but you said choosing love can be a radical act in Belfast. And I was really curious to know why that would be such a, like, in terms of Belfast as itself, in the day-to-day life, what does that look like, being radical, as choosing love in that sense? I know what it looks like maybe in Toronto and Windsor, but I don't know what that looks like in Belfast.
Well, definitely, Belfast is a very beautiful place. It has a very rich history. It has a very complicated history. And, you can still feel that complicated history to this day. And there's still division. There's still lots. I mean, like anywhere, there's a lot of great people there, and we've been able to find communities and stuff like that. But, with the history that it's had, like in the 70s and stuff like that, sometimes the harder thing was to choose love, and sometimes what's sad is the easier thing is to, like, put up boundaries and divide people and, hate people and stuff. That it's a shame that's like a simpler, easier option, because that's kind of what's put in front of you. So I guess love is the complicated one. It's actually a bit harder to push through. I guess all the burden, I guess, of a place of where you're from and how people feel, stuff like that. And I guess, it's a much better place for us. And I mean, it's like the best place in the world for us, because we were able to, like, express ourselves and make this music and find people and stuff like that. We also went there for university as well. So, it really was a place where we kind of came into our own, and it's like a coming of age record in that way as well. And us figuring ourselves out as people. So, overall, lots of positive things to say about this.
Want to do 2 more questions? Yeah, I'll do 2 more. And then, about the idea of, like, figuring yourself out or coming of age. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and kind of watching a lot of things that had to do with, coming of age or that time period. And I guess what I'm thinking about, like, what I'm working through, I'm just curious about, is there something that you're kind of scratching at in your own life, or that you're still kind of figuring out or not struggling with, but, wrestling with, that you, maybe are still trying to figure out a way to get there? Maybe music, maybe another way. I don't know.
Well, a big thing on the record for us was our identity in that way, and how it can be a bit complicated to figure out what your identity is. I mean, definitely in the last year or so, and I guess the album did confirm it in some ways, was just feeling Irish, and that was kind of how I felt about it. But I mean, I have a father who's English and a mother that's Irish, but I grew up in the south of Ireland, but then I went to school in the north of Ireland, so it's kind of a mixed bag where we're from. So I guess in that way it did kind of help kind of get a little bit closer to kind of figuring something out, but still feeling quite fluid in a lot of ways as well.
This is a tangent, I'm not sure if I'll even include this in, but right now my experience or my connection, even before I listened to the album, towards Ireland, was reading about how a lot of the Irish who came to the US, I'm not even American, but I was very... How the Irish became black. And I thought it was, like, so interesting how the Irish were more closer to black people in the US than it was to the white people who were there. But anyways, that's like a tangent, which I do think that identity is even more complicated across boundaries when you leave the diaspora, that are the Irish in the US and the Irish that are across the pond. But the last thing I wanted to add or to ask was, back to the beginning, because this is kind of the thesis of our little mini-series. We wanted to know what you guys are scratching with or sitting with right now as the interview is closing.
Or I guess what I was curious, I mean, that's kind of already what I asked. I was just going to say, like, time, the relationship to time or something. The relationship to time.
Oh, you forgot. What is your relationship to time?
That's all.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was it, yeah. Okay.
Start thinking like Christopher Nolan here. You
got the past.
Yeah, we're quite nostalgic people as well.
Yeah.
I think we've been asked the question before, do you think about the future or the past or something like that? And we are quite nostalgic.
Yeah, and they say, just be focusing on that present, but
Very
It's tough.
hard. Very hard to, so yeah, time. I think that's what we try to do with some tours, especially some of the last ones. You try to, I mean, we're trying to stay in Crystal. I mean, we've, you know, it took us like 9 months or something to make the record, and now we're touring it. So you kind of want to stay in the world of crystal punk, but you cannot help but think about the future in that way as well. So we are trying, I'm trying quite aggressively to try and stay in the moment, because this is only going to happen once. But then in 5 years' time, I'll be very nostalgic about it.
And that's it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.